Hello, it's Ruby, and today I'm going to be filming a very highly requested video. People always ask me how I take my notes for university. Today I'm going to be showing you how I do that, like how I take seminar notes, lecture notes, extra reading notes, context notes, and the answer to all of those questions is Notion. I'm so reliant on Notion, honestly, and I cannot recommend it enough. I absolutely love it, and I'm genuinely so happy to be able to say that Notion is sponsoring today's video, which is so cool, honestly. Like, I can't think of a cooler company to be partnering with. There is so much you can do on Notion. It's so versatile and also so easy to use. If you look at this page here, this is my university space page, and I think it looks pretty impressive. Notion lets you create so many different types of content, so many different elements for your pages, so it's not like you're just writing. You can add pictures, text, you can create galleries, so as you can see, for whenever I go to a museum or gallery, I'm starting to like put in my favorite things. That's just an example of that. Like, it's just so good, it's so versatile, and I absolutely love it. It looks impressive, but you don't need any coding experience, and also it's free. You can get the premium version for free as well if you're a student. Anyway, I'm gonna get into showing you how I organize my university notes with Notion. So I'll start by showing you how I take textual notes, then go on to lecture notes, then extra reading and context notes, and then finally seminar notes. And I will also leave a template for my module pages down below if you want to try using this yourself. So I'm doing 2 modules this year. I've got Life and Death in Early Modern England and Charles Dickens, and I'll kind of go through both of these because they're slightly different but mostly the same. So I will start by showing you my Charles Dickens page. So here's my main page. As you can see, I've just got some key links and things at the top, like my critical reading, my fact file, and then all of the key texts have their own page. So when I'm reading a text, I will usually read it on Kindle. I just use the desktop Kindle app, and I use this because you can easily make annotations and highlights, and I will just write like most of my notes, like my messy notes, while I'm reading into Kindle, just because it's really convenient. It just means I don't get distracted from the text itself because I don't want to be like moving between platforms. Kindle's really good for taking initial notes, and then with the book read on Kindle, it's time to move on to Notion. So here you go, when you click it, it comes up with copy of a new text. So this week we're doing Bleak House, so I'm going to use that as my example for you. So Bleak House, and I actually often forget to put the date into the title, but I do like to do that. Bleak House was 1853. I've just got this key information bit where I've got a link to my main timeline, so if I click on this, I'll just briefly show you. It's like where I put any key events. So with this book, published in 1853, so I can look at the context and things that were happening at the time in England. This is a little toggle where I'll just write down interests as and when they come up. So for example, in reading Bleak House, I already realised I want to look into fears around smell. And then here we've got key information. So I've put a plot summary. I don't always use this for my Charles Dickens, to be honest. Here is a bit for characters. So what I'll do is just create a little toggle for each of the key characters. So like Esther, and also Mr. Skimpole, for example, and just put a few thoughts about those characters here after reading the book, reflecting on what I thought about them. That's just an example. I'm not going to go into loads of detail, of course. So then there is an overview of my thinking, and here I will just write a few bullet points of my key like overarching thoughts about the book. Write a few sentences about how Bleak House links with ideas of disease in Victorian London. So for example, here is my thought overview for Sketches by Boz. As you can see, it's just some like bullet pointed, like my main thoughts as I was reading. And there is also a place for eclectic thoughts where I will just like copy and paste some of my keynotes from Kindle into the text. And then I would just put in some like context about Dickens at the time, if there was anything particularly significant that happened. And then under publication history, I would just make a note of how it's published. So Bleak House is published in serialized form, 20 episode serial, and I'm also just going to put in a quick image. So then here is space for lecture notes. As you can see, I've just got a toggle based system. So Notion is really great because you can use toggles to hide information, which is so good, especially when it comes to doing like critical reading and things. So if, for example, you look at my Sketches by Boz lecture notes, and there was only one lecture for Sketches by Boz. This was a very short lecture actually, so there weren't that many notes. You can see that I've used toggles to organise the information so that it's just a bit neater. I love the toggle system and they're really easy to make. All you've got to do, / and then search toggle, and you can bring that up, or you can just use a forward arrow and you instantly get a toggle, which is great. So all of my lectures are actually still online, and they're pre-recorded, so we just have to watch them in our own time before the seminar. So I will just get the lecture up on one side of my screen, and I'll have the Notion page up on the other side of the screen, and then whilst the lecturer is talking, I'll just be like writing up notes quickly. I'll also have the PowerPoint slides up in a separate window so that I can copy and paste any quotes in if I need to. I will use images from the PowerPoints in my lecture notes as well. Also, you can see that at the top with the interest thing, I will literally just add to that as I'm taking my notes. All of my notes would go like messily here, and then there's also this space for key takeaways. So I just jot down the key things that the lecture mentions. So if we mentioned like pollution in London, contexts, and it's just really useful when navigating your notes at a later date. So here is my life and death format. It is a little bit different, but it's pretty similar. I always will have a toggle at the top with things that I want to look into. So for life and death, I actually use a list format for my lectures. So each of these are mini sub-pages. So I've got the introductory lecture, then I've got lecture 1, lecture 2, lecture 3, and then we also have a live Q&A session. And so I will just separate all of my notes into these different pages. And you can see that in all of these, I have a little toggle for questions. So there's space here for questions like things I'm interested in and want to look into more. I will also jot down text that she mentions that I want to look into, and then I will transfer this. So at the top of my main page, you can see that I've got this recommended secondary reading, and I will just transfer the things that I found interesting under these toggles. And I usually won't look into them immediately after the class, just because I don't necessarily have time to do that immediately, but it means that I can come back to it over reading week. I'll be able to look at it over Christmas, but it just reminds me of things that I found interesting. So this is the template for my life and death module. It's slightly different because it's a play and instead of a novel. So this week we are looking at a woman killed with kindness. And this was published in 1607. Again, here you can see like interests and follow-ups at the top. So I've got my lecture notes here, live Q&A notes, and then questions for the live Q&A because I will prepare those ahead of time. Okay, so I've done lecture notes. Now like personal research stuff, so that's like context, critical reading, study group work. So first of all, study group work. I am in a study group for my life and death module, and we are given a task every week. Here I will just write in the task. Actually, I'll do that now to show you. So here is our Ellie page, where all of like our information is. If I go on to week 8, a woman killed with kindness. I'm study group 2, so we're looking at staging death, so I will just put the study group task in there so it's all accessible. Then we have a Google Drive link, so I'm just going to create a Google Drive doc for that. I prefer using Notion to Google Drive for study group tasks, and Blakeney and I, when we do shared group work, I'll show you, we do use Notion, but unfortunately not everyone uses Notion. I really love how you can link it though, so if I just go Command K and then paste the link in, and then I can easily access that. And then I always just come prepared for the study group meeting with some thoughts, so I just like bullet point some ideas for each of these questions here. So now I'll show you the study group stuff for my Dickens modules. So Blakeney and I both have a shared Dickens page with all of our shared notes. We're recommended a long list of critical reading and essays that we can read to help aid understanding in our seminars, and I really do like to do a lot of critical reading just because it gives you a better understanding of ideas in the academy and helps you to like actually see where the scholarship is, and just like think in a new way about the material. And your lecturers will recommend the stuff for a reason. It is interesting, I do love reading it, but you're never able to read that much. Like it is quite time consuming to read essays. What we'll do is each read 2 or 3 essays, maybe more, and then put our notes for these in a shared Notion page, so we can get double the amount of content but for half the amount of work. So if we go on here, week 8 combined Bleak House, this is our like template. It's just very basic. We've got seminar questions, brief thoughts, and extra reading. These are Blakeney's readings for this week, and these are my readings for this week. It's really not very complicated. I will just like bullet point the keynotes as I'm reading them, then at the end write a quick summary, 1 line basically saying what the argument is, so it's really easy when you're coming back over the stuff to like see what the actual person was arguing. If I write down any of my own thoughts whilst I'm reading the essay, I'll just do that in italics so I can easily see what stuff was my own thoughts and what stuff was the critics. So then Blakely and I, every single week, will sit down and feed back on our readings. I do find that bouncing off people is a really great way of like understanding the material better and understanding your own thoughts on the material. So we'll sit down for maybe 2 hours and just discuss the book, and we use these critical readings as a starting point, and as we're chatting we'll just write down our thoughts. For example, if we started talking about pollution, then all of our thoughts as we're discussing, we just like bullet point them here. Then also we're given seminar questions. So you see here we've got a worksheet, so we will just copy and paste those questions in and we'll discuss them together ahead of the seminars, and we'll just put each of the questions into little toggles, and then we'll just write our thoughts for that underneath. I love Notion for group work, and I wish more people used it when I was doing group work. Like with Google Drive, you can edit documents at the same time, so both of us will be writing up notes as we're talking on the same document, and then it all is like shared in one place. Then in terms of like other contexty bits, I just have this extra research thing at the bottom. So I would just like put in these critical readings here. I would just put in any context research. So if I did do research into smog in London, then I would write up that research there. So I might just do some basic context research. So just to give an example of that, under my other research for our Parenthood Week in my Life and Death module, you can see that I had put in these paintings. Like I'll just use it for compiling and organising information, so it's just a little bit easier to find, which is the thing I love so much. I think it's a great organisational tool, Notion. It just keeps everything in separate places and it's just easy to find stuff. One of the best things actually is you've got this quick find button here, and so you can literally search for anything. So earlier you can see I wanted to see all of my notes on Anatomy of Melancholy, so if I just search that, it will show me every time that I've mentioned on Notion Anatomy of Melancholy. I knew that it was mentioned in one of the lectures, but I couldn't remember which one, and so I was able to just like instantly click through to that lecture. And you can see, look as well, I literally linked to the text online so I could easily access it again. So this is literally just me gushing about how much I love Notion, I'm sorry. Also in our shared discussion, we might add in an audio recording of our discussion, which again you can do with Notion, which is great. So finally, seminar work. This isn't very comprehensive at all. Just have everything here. I just have like a seminar preparation where I put in my responses to the set seminar questions. Okay, so the first thing I will actually show you in relation to this is my weekly planner. So you can see that I've put in my Bleak House seminar for Monday, and these are things that our seminar tutor mentioned we might be looking at in that seminar. So I've just jotted them down here. It means that I can prepare them ahead of time. So I basically just jot down some thoughts in response to the questions and prompts and things which I knew we were going to cover in class, so I'm a bit more prepared and I might actually have things to contribute. So seminar notes, here you can see I've got messy seminar notes. I will literally just like bullet point things as they're coming up. I'm not very prescriptive. I'll just do a toggle if we start talking about, I don't know, kinship. I'll just like bullet points, and I just like jot down things as they're coming up, because I think seminars are quite fast paced and you don't want to be too focused on taking notes. You want to be focused on the seminar itself. I think it's better to have a really simple note-taking method, but I do like typing because it's faster, and also the toggles mean you can organise your notes and you can go back and easily like edit them afterwards. So after the seminar I would go through and I would just write up a seminar summary, so that would be like the key things that we covered and main interests, interesting points, and I just like bullet points and key thoughts there, which again is just an easy way for me when I'm doing revision, when I'm coming back to write essays. I can see that information at a glance and I don't have to troll through loads of messy seminar notes, but I can troll through them if there is something which I know is useful and relevant. But yes, okay, that is how I take notes for university. I did try to speed through this quite quickly, but I think this video is still quite long. I wanted to give a guide on everything, and it definitely is more format based, like how do I take my notes, as opposed to what things do I write down. If that's something you want to hear more about, then I can definitely integrate that into a vlog or something in future, like the actual things that I'll write down from critical essays or lectures or seminars. I do tend to overtake notes, that's one thing I will say. Like in a lecture I'll write more notes than I need, mainly because I know that I've got that search function on Notion, so like even if I wouldn't actually actively read through those notes, I like to have written down the key points so that I can search for it at a later date if I'm like, oh, I remember this was mentioned then I know that it's going to be on my page, which I quite like. In seminars, I'll write down less though, because it's less fact-based and it's more idea-based, and it's more about encouraging you to think about things in a new way. So I don't think taking notes in seminars is as important. I think the main thing is like jotting down if you have any core ideas, if anything comes up that you're interested in. The main thing that I would just say as a takeaway is make sure you have a little section in your notes where you can easily jot down questions and interests and recommendations for further reading as they come up, because they will come up, and it's good to have one set place where you can keep track of these. But yes, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you again to Notion for sponsoring today's video. Honestly, I love them so much. I'm not sure if you can tell. I do love Notion. I mention them all the time on my channel. There will be a sign up link in the description box if you want to start using Notion too. As I say, it is completely free, but yes, the link will be in the description box. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a productive week.